Hi everyone. Welcome to API automation testing using Karate framework. My name is Surendra Jagannatham. So, in the today's session, I would like to give you a brief overview on what exactly this Karate framework is and what are we going to study as part of our training program. So, this is the high level agenda for our session. So for which I just opened the Karate official website itself. So if you can see here, it's an open source tool combined for API automation testing, performance testing, and UI automation testing. All these things in a combined single tool, we can consider it as an Karate framework. These days, majority of the organizations are using Karate as their API automation framework. And moreover, in our sessions also, we are going to focus Karate specific to our API automation testing. So immediately a quick question will rise in our mind. So we do have a n number of automation tools to support API testing. Why specific Karate? Why not any other things? See, the simple thing out over here is if you are using a BDD framework as part of your project, then Karate framework is the best suitable for your project. The reason is almost your web automation is on a BDD framework itself. If you want to build API automation testing using any similar BDD framework, then Karate is the best tool for you. Okay, so there's Karate steps. So if you clearly have a look into here, the scenario, what they have a given out in the example. So you have a given when, then, and. So if you clearly observe whatever the regular Cucumber syntaxes are there, we are going to use the same syntaxes itself. But the only thing out over here is we don't have any step definition. So in order to create a test script in Karate, you no need to write down any step definitions. Just by following the syntax, automatically you can validate the API. Yes, it's a wonderful feature in Karate. And immediately a quick question will rise in our mind. Unlike other automation tools, they support a data-driven testing and few more advanced concepts. Does this framework supports it? Yes, of course. This Karate framework supports a different features like accessing the data from an explicit files or storing the information into an explicit file. Assume that we hit an API and we got a response. Using this Karate code, we can store that into a respective files like a text file, notepad, whichever it might be, you can store it. And even it has a customized reporting feature as well. So moving further within this training program, we are going to study how to handle the various APIs like a get, post, put, delete, all these APIs and different combinations of scenarios, how to add assertions to your test script, how to store your result in a text file, all those kinds of stuff we are going to study within this training program. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for registering this training program. See you again. Bye bye. Hello. Hi, everyone. Good morning. As part of the today's session, we are going to see what is the configuration required for us to work on this Karate in our machine, followed by what are all the prerequisites that we need to do ahead basically. So the first one is we need to install Java. Basically, you can install Java 8 in your machine. On top of it, in order to write down our code base, we need an editor. Hence, I'm using an Eclipse editor. And for this Eclipse editor, to support the Cucumber plugin, I'm just using a Naturals plugin on top of this Eclipse editor. And additionally, you should have a Maven, and that too, the Maven should be updated in an environmental variables. Java and Maven both should be updated in an environmental variables. We need a Postman basically, whenever you are working on a project specific API automation testing, we will be using this Postman precisely to verify that request first. And once we are having an appropriate response in a Postman, then we will write down the same code base in our Karate framework. So it's just kind of a reference. We need a Postman. So these are the four different things that we should configure ahead before going with a Karate. And the best source to learn this Karate is it's the official website itself. I just opened I just opened this karate website, official documentation. It's a one page where in which you have a complete information about this framework. So how you need to create a code base, how you need to maintain your code base, what are all the dependencies you need in order to configure this karate. Everything is there in this particular official documentation itself. Of course, it has a sample given responses also. You can just use those things, and there is a tabular format where in which you can find a more details about it. First, suppose if you want to use an assertions to your test script, here is an documentation where you can go ahead and study about the assertions. Or if you want to convert your API response into a files, basically you can use it here. Basically how you are going to deal with the responses and all those things, we have a official documentation with more details. Okay, cool. As part of the current scenario, we just need to do a configuration. So what is the configuration required for us to work on this karate? So the simple thing that I'm doing out over here is in my Eclipse editor, I'm creating a new Maven project. See, I have created a new Maven project with the name as a karate framework. And to this project or to this Maven project, what I'm doing means in the pom.xml, I'm just adding these two dependencies, which is Karate Apache and a Karate JUnit. These are the two dependencies that I'm adding to my pom.xml. And once you added this pom.xml, the next thing here is the folder structure. So the folder structure that I'm following out over here is I'm just maintaining my complete API automation testing into two chunks. One is the resources and another one is a Java. In the resources, I'm just going to maintain a feature files itself, whereas in the Java, I'm going to maintain my runner classes. For suppose additionally, if you want to write down a customized Java classes also, I'm going to maintain those customized Java classes here in a SRC test Java. Okay, so this is all about the folder structure that you have to maintain. And once you have created these features, I'm just creating a sample feature file here. How you can create a feature file means new file, and I'm naming it as example2 dot feature. That's it. I just created a new feature file. Now I need to follow the documentation of a karate and I need to start writing down my programs. But this is the only configuration that you need to do. You guys need to do these prerequisites, and after that, just create a Maven project. Whatever the dependencies I have listed down here, just add those dependencies to your pom.xml and go with the folder structure that I have created. Or additionally, the karate, what you can do is in a single package itself, you can maintain the feature files and as well as your runner classes also. If you go ahead and see here the documentation, let me scroll down to the folder structure, what exactly the karate is saying. You can maintain, see here basically, within a package, you can maintain the feature files and as well as the runner classes also. It's up to you. But for me, what I'm doing means I'm just separating my feature files into one location and my runner class into a different location. This is the configuration that I am following here. That's it. This is the basic configuration, guys. In the next session, let us see with a simple example on a get request. How can you write down a program for get request in Karate framework? Thank you. Bye bye. Hello, everyone. Good morning. So, as part of the today's session, we are going to see a brief introduction about the API. The reason is, Karate is a framework that we are using to test an API. Then we should know what is an API, what are we going to test as part of an API, and how are we going to validate those APIs. So, API is an application programming interface. If you request an API with some inputs, definitely you will get an output from that particular API. Assume that I want to get today's weather information. So it's a get request. Assume that I want to create a new record for a particular user. It's going to be a post operation. So based on the operation, whatever we are performing, API will give you certain response, a token of a confirmation for that particular API call. So the various API requests which we have are get, post, put, and a delete. Get is a method which is used to get the data from a particular system. So there is some data, get it. As I have seen shown you example like get the weather information. Today's weather information is one kind of a get response. Moving on to a post, post is used if at all you want to create a new entry. So it means I just want to create a new user. I just want to create a new, new record. All those things you can do using a post. Moving on to a put, basically, if at all there is any existing record is there, and if you want to update that existing record, you need to use this put method. And finally, the delete, you just need to delete is a method which is precisely used if you want to remove that complete entry from that particular application. Fine. These are the four requests. Immediately, a quick question will rise in our mind. Do we need to pass any kind of an argument precisely to deal with these requests? Of course. In order to handle the API requests, basically, we need a various kinds of arguments that we need to pass. So the first one here is a URL, which is going to be the API URL itself, followed by a header. Header means the applications that we are looking at right now is a public APIs, which doesn't need any kind of an explicit authorization. Assume that you are working on a client APIs. Definitely, it needs an authorization mechanism. Authorization mechanism, and what type of input you are passing also you need to specify in a header, followed by where any one of these methods along with the JSON input required. First, suppose if at all I'm going for a get is getting the information from that particular application. Hence, you no need to pass any JSON information. Whereas a post and put, you are inserting something into an application. Definitely, what are all the set of information you want to insert? You need to pass it as a JSON body for post and as well as a put. Perfect. And then the next point, how are you going to validate the APIs? The first and a foremost thing that you will be validating the APIs is by its response codes itself. If we are getting anything on a 200, 200, 201, 204, something, 2xx basically. If you are getting any API response on a 200, we can say that it's success. Whatever the operation you have performed, it's success. Maybe it successfully retrieved the information, it successfully updated the information, all those things will come from a 200 response codes. Moving on to the next one, 400, either 400, 401, 404, etc. All these things, client error, something is went wrong. And moreover, the most important thing that you need to consider is whenever you are encountering 400 errors, basically, it's your request issue. You need to cross check all the parameters that you have passed for a request and check whether the appropriate information for that request is passed or not. It's our responsibility. And moving on to the next one, which is a 500 errors, basically, when we will get the 500 errors means, okay, you give a proper information itself, but the server is not responding. In such situations, you will be encountering this kind of a 500 errors. Perfect. This is all about APIs and the methods, guys. The reason is in Karate framework, of course, not only the Karate, whatever the API tool you are going to use, you are going to use these methods itself. Get, post, put, delete, and as well as these arguments and as well as this response codes. And moreover, here we were talking about a JSON body. So in the next lecture, what we are going to see means we will see a brief introduction about the JSON structure, how the JSON structure looks like. All those things we will see in the next session, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. As part of the today's session, we are going to see a sample GET request that we are going to create as part of the Karate framework. And how are we going to verify the response also we are going to see as part of the today's session. So the first thing out over here is I have a given couple of referenced websites basically. So what is the significance of these reference websites means my requirement is to test an API. So I need an API URL. So whenever we are learning from our end, it's really difficult for us us to get certain APIs which are having a get, a post, a put, all these methods basically. So here are the few reference links where in which we have some methods on a get, we have some methods on a post, put, delete, which will be easy for us to practice that particular stuff. So what I'm going to do now means I'm just opening this open weather API. Okay, so open weather API. I'm just opening this one. I just want to show you how this sample request looks like. So here in which I'm just going for an current weather data API documentation. Here is the link basically. So these are the API calls. Okay, these are the API calls. And here are the examples on an API calls. api.openweather.org.data, and here API key we need to pass. So the only thing that we need to pass is an API key itself. So what I need to do means let me copy this URL or URI for a particular API. I'm placing that API in a notepad. So I'm just placing that. So whatever the API key is there, I need to replace that API key. As per this open weather API, you just need to create an account. And once after you created an account, there is an option for you to create your APIs and to see your APIs also. So here, I just created one account and I logged into my account. And from where I'm clicking on this API keys tab, this is the API key that I already have. So if you want, you can generate a new API key also. Copy this API key and replace it here. So this is a get request. So copy the get request. Usually, whenever you have a get request, to see whether that request is working or not, complete request, copy it and place it in a new tab and hit it. If it is a public API, definitely you will get a response from that API. So this is the response that I got from that particular API, and the response code is 200. It's perfect. So copy the response code, go back to the document, get API example, followed by API response. Okay, API response. I just pasted that response here. This is the response which we got from the browser. I directly placed this API URL in a browser and I'm just getting that particular response. And now okay, so now what I'm going to do right now is let us create an API get request precisely in our Karate framework, and let's see what is the response we are getting from that Karate. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm moving back to my Eclipse editor. So guys, if you remember, we have already created two feature files in our code base. Right. So I'm opening my first feature file and I'm giving a name as a feature validates get requests. So this is the feature file and it has a scenario. So what is my business scenario that I'm going to verify? Verify. So let me go back to the browser once. What is the thing we are verifying here? So we are verifying. So here, current weather data. So verify current weather data. So that's fine. So I have created a scenario. So this is a regular Cucumber BDD syntax itself, where in which I have created a feature file and I have created a scenario. And now go to the Karate official documentation and let us see some examples on creation of a feature file. So this is the official website, and see here they have given two examples. One is on a post. If your requirement is a post, this is what the sample it looks like. If your requirement is a get, this is what a sample is. So as of now, my current requirement is to verify the get itself. Hence, I need to go with this particular one. Okay, good. So here, given URL is an Karate keyword, followed by you need to place the API URL out over there. So here, given URL. See here, basically, what is the method we have? URL, and in the single quotes, paste the API URL. So where is my get API URL? I have already placed my get API URL in a notepad document. Copy that URI from the notepad document and I'm just placing it here. That's it. I have a given. And then if you go back there, it's stating that and a request is there. So basically, we have a request body for a post method. As of now, we are using a get. So directly we can go with a when followed by a method. So this method will be get, post and a delete. These are all the methods. So in my current requirement, the method is a get. So when method get. So this is what my get request is. And after that, then status 200. So then status 200. So this is what the feature file that I have created. So the most important thing with respect to these karate is you no need to write down the step definitions. Using these method names, whatever we are passing here, karate will recognize what action it should perform and it will perform the appropriate action. So URL means this is what a API URL is. The method means among all the existing methods like a get, put, post, and a delete. So this is the get method you are verifying it. And whatever the status you want to verify, my status is a 200. Perfect. So this is the way how exactly I can create my scenario for a get. Perfect. And after creating a scenario, I need to run this to see how exactly it's going to execute. So what I'm going to do right now is let me scroll down in the Karate official website itself, where in which I just want to see a sample runner class that they have created. See, basically, if you want to run your script, you can go with this particular syntax itself. So here at the rate run with the karate dot class, public class name. Fine. So what I'm doing right now means wherever my feature file is there, there itself, I just want to write down my runner class. So right click, new class, test runner one. So this is what my first runner class that I'm creating. For this runner, you need to add this at the rate runs with the karate dot class. I'm just specifying that. If you go back and if you add this one, so runs with, you need to import this run with, and of course, you need to import this karate dot class also. That's it. I have just imported this runner class. Now, if you clearly observe, guys, the folder structure, as per this example, here are my feature files. In the same package itself, I have my runner class. So for my runner class, I no need to explicitly say where exactly my feature files are and all those things. Okay. Now let me try to run this class and see what exactly the response we are getting. Right click, run as, this is a JUnit test. I'm just adding it as a JUnit test, and maximize the console and see here basically. So here the error that we are getting is mismatched input EOF expecting feature tags or a feature. Why are we getting this particular exception means if you observe your features that you have created, you have a one feature which has the syntax and you have another feature without having anything. That's causing the issue. So I'm deleting the empty feature file. I'm just deleting the empty feature file and I'm trying to run this class again. So run as a JUnit test this time, and let us see the console right now. Now the console is, it's trying to execute, still the response is executing. See here, it got executed, and let's see this particular one. So skipping bootstrap. Okay, so it's just performed a skip operation. And okay, org.apache.client protocol exception. So this is getting some protocol exception. Why are we getting the protocol exception? What is the runner? Or see, basically here we have just specified the API. It should have that particular the protocol. See, basically HTTP hit it. So I'm getting the same response. So what I'm going to do right now here is HTTP colon. Now let me try to run this runner again. So the only thing is whenever I place in my API, it doesn't copy the protocol. So that's the reason I'm feeling that it's an exception out over there. And I'm trying to run this script again. And this time, if you observe, guys, it got executed successfully. And you executed one scenario and one scenario got a passed out over there. So out of one got a passed. Perfect. Let's study this console log and see that we can understand and what exactly it got executed. Okay, so this is the get response that you have executed, and it's trying to debug the whole thing. And here, if you observe this stuff, basically, this is the response code that you got from that particular API. And here is the response body that we got from that particular API. So what I'm doing right now means whatever the response body we got it, copy it from the console and place it in this notepad. We already have a response body for that API response that I have it in a browser. I'm just copying it here to compare the response, whatever we get from a browser along with a karate. See here, karate response. See, basically you can compare these two responses. Both are one and the same. Perfect. So this is the way how can you create a simple get request and how can you get that particular response also. Okay, fine. In the next session, we will continue the topic with the further more examples, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you in the next session. Hi, everyone. Good morning. As part of the today's session, we are going to study a brief introduction about a JSON. So is it JSON really required for us to know? Yes, of course. The reason is if you know the JSON, then you can easily understand and you can play with your response. So whatever the API you are validating, the response itself is coming as part of a JSON. If you know the JSON structure, if you know how can you use the JSON and how to validate a JSON, then it's easy for you to work on karate assertions. So in order to work on karate assertions, the precondition out over there is having a good understanding on a JSONs. Okay, so what is a JSON? JavaScript object notation. And this JSON is precisely of a two types. One is an object. So if it is a JSON object, it will be represented in a curly braces. If it is a JSON array, it will be represented in this kind of a normal braces. And for any object, it's going to represent here a combination of a key value pair. Okay, the combination of a key value pair we have in any particular object. So key one, value one, comma. If there are a multiple values sets are there in an object, you just need to specify using a comma. Comma is used precisely to separate a multiple sets of values defined in this particular one. Whereas on another side array, it contains simple information itself. Whatever the information we have, just the only that information you are going to define in this particular values in an array basically. So it has a value 1, value 2, value 3, something like that. You will be storing down that information. So here the below picture is going to show you a brief overview on the different types of objects and arrays. So it means it's not like always a straight path that you will be defining a JSON object in this way and JSON array in this way. There will be a mix and match of object and as well as an array also in our response. To understand our response more clearly, we should know the different ways of this notation. So here, if it is a JSON object, if you want to define it in a simple way, see here key and a value. If you have a multiple key value pairs, you can separate a comma and key to comma value to colon, you will specify that. Whereas moving on to the second one, basically, it's a nested key. So this structure, whatever I'm showing out over here, is a nested key. So first JSON object is there. Here in this line, it's starting. If you clearly observe, this JSON object is starting here and it is ending. Whereas the key, instead of passing the value directly, you are creating another object inside that. See here for the key, instead of passing the value, you are creating a JSON object inside that. This syntax we can call it as an nested objects. Okay, moving on to the next one, basically inside a JSON object. See, this is an object, this is a start point, and this is an end point for which we are using array object here. So it means my key is a one, maybe I have a multiple values. I can say an example for this one is cars. My cars is the key and the values are I might have a BMW, I might have a Skoda, I might have another car. Multiple cars information I can pass in an array. Okay, so you may use any one of these three, and a simple JSON array looks like this one. Basically, the value will be defined. And if you want to use a nested arrays, basically, so this is what the array starting and this is what the array ending, inside of which you can pass multiple JSON objects inside that. So if you observe these two examples, one thing that we guys need to consider is inside a JSON object, I can create an array, or inside an array, I can also pass a JSON object. A mix and match of these two things we are going to represent as part of a JSON. Fine. So moving on to the next point here, I just want to show you the next screen where in which I want to consider a sample example on this JSON and what are all the mechanisms we can use in order to retrieve that. See, assume that this is what your response. Okay, this is what the response I got from a particular get endpoint. Assume that I hit particular API. This is what the response I got from that particular API. It has first name, last name, age, cars, it has array of values, income. This is kind of a nested object here. Income, I have a multiple sources, a salary, others, and multiple sources are there. And the pets, which is of an array type. Inside the pets, we have a multiple objects like I have a one two different dogs. One is a blackie, which is of a breed labber, and another dog we have a brownie, and it's a Rottweiler. So I have defined it. Assume that this is what a complete response that you got from a particular API. This is what my API response is. So if I have this API response, from this response, if I want to get certain information, okay, so I just want to get certain information from this particular response. So what I'm going to do right now means let me open my notepad so that I can easily write down the scenarios in that notepad document itself. Just give me a second, let me pull this notepad document, 1 second. So here I just closed that full screen window for a presentation, and I switch back to my Word document here, a notepad, and I just added a column basically, which is JSON data retrieving. As of now, response is the one which has complete response of the API. Whatever the API response is there, this whole screen basically, it's a response for a particular API, and it will be stored in a response a variable. Response is a variable that we can use it in a karate basically, which has a complete response JSON body inside that. Now here, if you see certain examples, my requirement is I want to get the last name from this particular one. So the last name is here directly inside a JSON object itself. So first name and a last name. So directly what I can do is get last name. So if it is my requirement, response dot lname. That's it. Lname is a variable that we have basically in the JSON. So from the response, I'm just asking it to get lname. Automatically, whatever the response we have from which it will pick the last name. This is the way how you need to do that. Maybe it's up to you. Whatever the value you are retrieving it, you may store it in some variable that we will do as part of the complete assertions. But now as part of the today's sessions, let us see how can we get retrieve the information from a JSON for a different sets of operations. Okay. Cool. And then see here, you have a cars basically, and this cars is an array. Car is a key basically, but it has multiple values, Hyundai and a Ford. So this car is there in my response, in which I want to get my second car, not the first car. I want to get my second car. How can I get that information? Get second car name. So response dot, what is the key in which we have this cars information? Inside the cars itself, we have this cars information. See, this is the cars. So let's go back. Cars, and cars is of what type? Basically, it's a JSON array type. In order to retrieve the information from an array type, I can just use an index. Basically, I can give index of 1. Index of 1 is going to get my second car. Index of 0 is going to get my first car information. That's it. So this is the way how can we get the second car name. Okay, perfect. And the next one is get other income. So basically in this response, whatever we have, see, it has income, and income has multiple objects. This is not an array we have in an income. We have a sub objects inside that. My requirement is how can I get other income from this particular one? So in the response, you have a income. So first of all, let's go back to that notepad. Get other income. So from the response, you have income. See, basically, if you go back, in the response, you have an income. Inside the income, there is an object of others. Others has a value. So directly I can use dot others. Automatically, it will be getting that others income. Okay, automatically this will be getting the others income. And we have a one more last example that I want to show you out over here. So which is I have a pets. Basically I want to get my second pet breed. Okay, so whatever the pet is there, every pet has a name and as well as a breed. For my second pet, I need to get the breed. So pets, if you observe, this is a JSON array. The symbol it's showing it as a JSON array. JSON array has a two sets of values. Okay, so first what I'm going to do, get second pet breed. Okay, so from the response we have a pets. So that's it basically. So if you observe, from the response you have a pets, and moreover the pets is of an array. If you want to select something, you need to go with an index, and my requirement is of a second pet. So of one. So from the pets of a array, go to the second array of values in which I want to get breed. So breed. So which will be getting the breed of my second pet. That's it. So this is the way how can we play with these JSON. And guys, these kinds of things we are going to use as part of our assertions that we are going to see in the next session. Thank you. Bye bye. Hi everyone. Good morning. So as part of the today's session, we are going to see a brief introduction on the various assertions you can add to your Karate test script. So let's go back here. So if you remember, this is the sample example that we have created. If you observe here, then status 200. So here, this is a kind of an assertion that we have already implemented. The meaning is the outcome from this particular API status code should be 200. That's what the assertion you are doing here. To cross check what I'm doing means, let me run my class first of all. I'm just running my runner class first, the previous script that we have created. And if you observe the console, the response code is 200, and even it's matching with this particular response code. For suppose what I'm doing right now means wantedly. Okay, so wantedly, I'm changing my response code to 400. So the meaning is then 400. Upon executing this particular API request, verify from the script we are saying that the response code should be 400. That's what we are specifying from the script. And when the script got executed successfully, it will show an error message in the console. See here, this is the log which has the clear-cut information. See, basically error. This is the error. The status code was a 200, whereas the expected was a 400. See, whenever I'm executing this API, I got a response as a 200, but as part of your feature file, you are expecting it as a 400, which is not one and the same. So this is the basic assertion that we have already implemented in the scenario. One thing out over here is once, okay, that's fine. We have the basic response code verification. Now you need to verify the response body, whether we are getting the appropriate response or not. We need to validate the response body. So what I'm going to do right now means whatever the response we are getting from this API, okay, let me copy that response first of all. Okay, let me scroll down to the console. Yeah, this is what my response is. Just copy the response. This is not in a proper JSON format. Hence, I am going to Google and here I'm just searching for JSON format.org. And here I'm placing my JSON body response here. Automatically, it's coming in a proper format. See here, in the previous session, we have already seen about a JSON object and as well as a JSON array. See, basically, this is a complete JSON object which has a coordinate and even it is an array, and whether it is of an array type basically. Weather is of an array type, and the weather description contains a few clouds. As per the previous assertion techniques that we have used on a JSN, I just want to implement the similar kind of an assertion here also. So in order to do any kind of an assertions in karate, so there is, if you scroll down to the, go down to the karate official website, and if you scroll down here, there is a separate classes basically that we have to validate the bunch of assertions, whatever we have. Okay, in order to validate the bunch of assertions, we have these many methods are there. Match equal to, match contains. So let me click on a match contains. So whenever I clicked on a match contains, match contains, does it has this value or not? We are going to verify. Fine. So what I'm going to do right now is, let me go back to my feature file. Okay. And what I'm going to do, match. So what exactly the match you are going to verify in the response? Okay, from the response, if you can compare the response body here, inside the response, weather is of an array type. So from the weathers, from the response, you have a weathers, and inside the weathers, there is a 0th index basically. So which is going to be the first index, and the description. What exactly the description is there? Dot a description. Okay, this is going to get that particular description, but you need to compare that particular description. Hence, I am using a contains. What is there in that description? Few clouds. Copy that, go back here and place it here. So the assertion, what we are doing from the response, whatever the weather array is there, go to the 0th array in which get the description and check whether it contains a few clouds or not. Let me try to run my test script and see what exactly it is returning to the console. So let me maximize here and see basically the scenarios it got executed and one got a pass. The assertion is passed. For suppose what I'm doing right now means I know the description is a few clouds. So here wantedly I'm changing to Surendra Jagannatham. I'm just changing it to my name. So I know the API is not having this value, but wantedly I give my name out over there. And when I run my test script as a JUnit test, if you see that the comparisons now, see, let me execute here. See this response. The scenarios were one, passed were zero, and failed were one. Why it got a failed? This is the error reason behind the failure. If you scroll towards right, whether description. This is the assertion it's getting failed. So dollar dot. So here we can use either response dot or dollar dot to get a JSON response basically. So dollar dot whether of a 0 dot a description actually is a few clouds. Basically that value is a few clouds and you are expecting a Surendra Jagannatham which is not same, hence it got a failed. Okay, both are not same, hence it got a fail. So I changed my to few clouds, or I assume that it has a Surendra Jagannatham. Okay, and here the contains, right, we can add an exclamatory mark here which is not contains. The description not contains Surendra Jagannatham. Of course, it not contains Surendra Jagannatham. And when I run my test script this time my script will show as a success itself. The reason is that the assertion we are using is a not contains. Whenever you use a not contains, it's not going to verify that particular stuff. Okay, good. So this is the way how exactly you can match this one. And moreover, what you can do is assume that my requirement as per the karate documentation itself, I can see for a particular field whether it is a string or not, what exactly the data type it is. Even we can validate all those assertions also. Hash string, it means the response is a string. Okay, hash number, whether it is a number or not. You can use these kinds of assertions also. So for now, if you observe here, the description is a string, right? So what I'm going to do now means end match response dot weather of 0 dot description. Of course, that's fine, which is equal to, I know it's a string. So here hash, and it's a string, hash string. So I'm just comparing it out over there. Now, let me try to run my test script and see whether this assertion is getting passed or not. In the karate index itself, basically, it will give you all the details, what types of assertions you can add it out over there. Hash string, hash number, all those things you can add it out over there. We have in that documentation also. See here, both are passed. For suppose what I'm doing right now means I know it's a string, but here I'm giving it as a number, hash number. And now when I run my script, the description is a string, but I'm comparing with a number. When I run my script here, this time this assertion will show as a failure basically. Okay, this assertion will show as a failure, failed basically. The reason is here the above line will show that description action is a few clouds. Few clouds is a string, but you are comparing with a number which is not equal, hence it got a failed. Okay, which is not equal, hence it got a fail. So this is the way how can you add a basic assertions out over there. Okay, you can add a basic assertions out over there. Fine. We'll see few more assertions in upcoming sessions. Okay. Thank you guys. See you again in the next session. Bye bye. Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome back. In the last session, we have seen a brief introduction about the various kinds of assertions, whatever we have. In continuation with that, what are we going to do means let us modify this test script furthermore. So what kind of a modifications I want to do means let me comment this whole script. So I'm just copying this whole thing and I'm just commenting this stuff and I'm placing here. I'm deleting this match stuff. Now this is just a get request. So what I'm doing right now means I'm converting it into a scenario outline. So in Cucumber, we have a scenario outline concept. Using this scenario outline, you can pass your data sets here, right? So basically, I'm just defining my URL out over there. And inside that URL, I'm just passing my URL. So in the examples, I'm passing my URL. So here, whatever the URL argument is there, I'm just passing it here. So my requirement is this scenario needs to execute on this test data, whatever you have defined in an outline. So let me try to run my test script here, run as a JUnit test and see the outcome would be one and the same. There is no change out over there. The only difference out over there is instead of defining the URL within that particular class or within that particular scenario, we are passing it as part of an outline itself. Okay, so now what I'm trying to do means I'm just going back to my presentation where I have some sample APIs URLs. I'm just copying one among those URLs and I'm just referring to that. So here, there we have some get API also. See, basically, this is what I get response. Copy this. And if you go at the details, it will show you the various details for that response. So this is what the get method is, and this is the response you are going to get from that. So here, as part of the scenario outline, I'm just defining another outline here. Okay, I'm just defining another outline here. Now, let me try to run my test script. Run as a JUnit test now. This time, it's going to execute on the two data sets, whatever we have a passed. See, the two data sets, whatever we have a passed, it executed that information. Okay, we are getting some failures. Fine, we'll look at that particular failures also. So what's the failure we are getting here? Okay, but anyways, if you observe here, both the scenarios got okay. The scenario with the multiple examples got executed, and one got passed and one got a failed. Okay, we will see why it got a failed when we were executing that particular request itself. Too many requests. Title too many requests. It's not processing it. Okay, let me see once what we have in the feature. Okay, fine. Let me leave this one and let me pass this example once again. See here, I'm just using the same weather API for multiple times, and let me try to run my script. Rather than giving a different API, I'm just giving my weather API itself, and let us see are we getting passed or failed. Okay, see here, passed out of paths. So here the issue is whenever I'm trying to add those two APIs, I encountered an issue, but this time, whenever I'm just giving only the weather API, we are getting a proper response itself. So this is the way how exactly we can create a scenario outline. Fine. And one more thing out over here is you can get the response values and you can store it in a variables also. Whatever the response you are getting, you can store it in a variable. And okay, and so basically, what is the keyword that we are going to use in order to store in a variable is def. Basically, def is a keyword that we are using in order to store a value to a particular variable. Okay, so what I'm doing right now means and def, the variable name is a description. Okay, inside of this description, what I'm going to do, response dot from the response, okay, whatever the weather description is there, get that particular description. See, this description we are storing in this particular variable. See, I want to print that particular information. Then print is a keyword that we are using in karate to print down that particular information. So then print DESC. So I'm trying to print that particular description. So what are we doing right now, guys? From the response, you are getting one value for that particular description and you are assigning it into another variable and you are printing that. So here def is a keyword that we are using in order to define a variable, and print is a keyword that we are using in order to print that information to the console. Let me try to run my test script and see what exactly the variable outcome it is printing to the console. It should print whatever the value we have as part of that you know statement of description. It should print. See, basically print few clouds, the value whatever we have, it got printed down successfully using a print statement. Good. So far, we have seen various examples on a get. In the next session, we will see a small example on a post, guys. Cool. That's all I have. See you again in the next session. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. As part of the today's session, I just want to show you a simple example on a post in karate framework, how you need to define a post basically in karate. So one thing that differs from get and as well as a post is for get, you no need to specify the request, whereas for a post, you need to specify the request body and the request should be passed using a request method. And inside these braces, you just need to pass your request. So what I'm doing right now means I just navigated to dummy REST API examples and we have one post method is there and there is a URI for that and even the details are there. First of all, what I'm doing right now means inside my framework, I'm just creating a new feature file, example2.feature. Let me trim my content out over here. This is not a get method. This is a post method, right? Validate post request. verify. What is this particular API? Dummy sample REST API. Verify dummy sample REST API post request. Okay, and here the method is a post, and whenever there is a method as a post, here you need to pass request right after the URL. So that's the reason what I'm doing means given and request. See here, and request. That request should be passed in these braces. That's fine. And here the API URI should be changed. For this one, the post, this is the URI. Copy the URL, update this URL here. Okay, update this URL here, and it doesn't need these last two commands. Let me delete it, and let's go back to this documentation and see the details. So for this API, as per the details, they have a given sample JSON. So this is the JSON that you guys need to give in for this post request, and this is the response that you will get from that particular thing. Now let me get this one. Name as a test, salary as a 123, age as a 23. If you go back here, inside of this one, I'm just passing down that information. Okay, this is what my API request with these set of values, and it is a post request, and we have a 200. And now whenever we use a runner right now, it's going to execute all the feature files. That's the reason what I'm doing means whatever the scenarios we have in a get, I commented out everything for now. So moving ahead, we will see how can we add a tags to a particular scenario and how to run those specific tags. Anyways, we will see moving ahead, but for now let's do this particular thing. Okay, so I commented out my first feature file, and only I have a one feature file, which is this particular one. Now let me try to run this runner, which internally runs only the example2.feature itself. So let us see what is the response from that. Maximize this stuff. See, basically passed one, state as a success, and this is what the response we get from that particular API. Copy this response and directly paste it in a JSON converter. I just want to convert it. See, status data successfully. Let me compare this response here with this. So this is the response that we get, and this is the response that we have. Both are one and the same itself. Okay, both the responses are one and the same. Status is there, data, name, salary ID, everything is there. This is what how we can use a post method on a Karate API. The only thing is you just need to pass on your request as an input argument for this request, and in a single line you just need to pass on the request. Automatically it will be executing that particular stuff. Okay, cool. So in the next session we will see how can we add a tag names for an individual scenario so that I can run my only those specific tags. And moreover, I don't want to keep my runner within the feature file. I just want to switch my runner to a different package. How we are going to do all these things, let us study in the next session. Thank you. Bye bye. Hello everyone, welcome back. So as part of the previous session, we have seen how exactly we can execute one scenario itself. But it's not always the case that every time I need to run only one scenario and I need to comment all the other scenarios. So that's the reason what we are doing means, I'm not commenting the other scenarios. I just left the comments, uncommented for all the scenarios. And what I want to do right now is I just want to give a unique tag name. So here, post example. This is what the tag name that I have given. So the only thing that I want to do right now is in my runner class, I just want to pass a certain options specifying that I want to run only this particular tags. See here, I'm passing my karate options is equal to what are all the tags I just need to execute that needs to be passed in here. That's it. Import these karate options. So only thing that I have done right now is, so I have uncommented all my feature files. So I have three scenarios. My example one has two scenarios. Example two has one scenario. But the only thing is I have a given post example to the example two scenario itself. And now when I run my test script using this karate options, whatever the tag name is there, it's going to execute only that tag related scenarios itself. Okay, it's getting failed. So the reason why are we getting failure precisely for this particular API is whenever you are trying to hit this API for multiple times, sometimes we are getting this exception. Not always, sometimes we are getting this exception. Okay, but if you clearly observe what is the scenario it got executed means only the one whatever we have in an example to it got executed here. See here, basically, the feature which is in an example 2 dot a feature, it's getting executed. Of course, that's what my requirement is. It's getting executed. So as we are trying to hit this API for multiple times, we are getting this particular response from it. Maybe let's see one more time if we are getting success or not. If not, we'll see furthermore. See here, I haven't done anything, guys. This is the feature it got executed and this time it got a pass. The only reason why it was a failed earlier is because of a multiple hits itself, it got a fail. Now, my example post, okay, this has a post example. This scenario one has a two gets. So here at the rate get example one, this is one tag name, and the another scenario I'm just giving get example 2 tag name. So all the scenarios has an individual tag names. So whenever I'm copying get example 2 tag name and specifying here only scenario related with that particular tag it will execute. How in Cucumber the tags concept is going to work, the similar way it's going to execute that particular tag related scenarios itself. The only thing that you are passing it out over here is just the tag name. And in the runner class, one more option that you are passing out over here is this is a karate options that we are passing out over here. So this is the way how can you customize your scenario and run a specific scenarios. Okay, cool. Done the deal. See you in the next session. Bye bye. Welcome back, guys. So in the previous session, we have seen how to configure the runner class. As part of the today's example, what I'm trying to do means I have a multiple feature files. Can I call one scenario defined in one particular feature file and I can use that particular scenario? Of course, you can use that. So what I'm going to do right now means here I'm creating a new feature file example 3 dot a feature. Assume that this is the scenario where which is generating some kind of application token and we want to use it for multiple times. Okay, see here I have a get example of 3 and I need to define a feature that's going to be the feature is a reusable function dot a feature verify current weather date reusability. So whatever the response you are getting, see here given when then these three things will get a response from that API, and from the API response we are getting description for a particular weather and we are storing it in a description variable. Perfect. My next requirement that I want to do is whatever the description this method is generating, I want to use it in my another feature file. Maybe here this is an example to this is a post method, right? I want to use that particular feature here. So how are we going to call one feature file in an another feature file? See here call one feature file into an another feature file. So how are we going to do this particular activity using the karate framework? Of course we can do this, and moreover whatever the response we are getting from a API, even you can store it in and separate a file also depending on your requirement. That's fine, that's going to see as part of a next scenario. But for now, how are we going to call one feature file here? Let us see with an example. So here, what I'm doing right now is and def. So def, and I'm going to store description is equal to whatever the description you are getting from that, just store it here. Or instead, what I can do is this is not a description, right? Other response. This is not the current response, basically, it's another response. What are we going to do? We are going to do a call and read. What are we going to read? We are going to read a feature present in this particular features location. So here features of my feature is example 3 dot a feature. So what it will happen, this line will call this particular feature file and the complete response will be stored here. And now what I'm going to do right now is then print other response dot. Using this other response, whatever the variables you have in that feature file, you can access it. So here you have a description variable, so I'm using des. Okay, so then print other response dot description. From this response, get the description and print it to the console. Fine. So I just need to execute my post example itself, copy the tag name, update the tag name in a runner class, and let me run this class. So whenever I'm trying to execute my test script, it should execute and it should call the other feature file and it should print the content present in that other feature file also. So this is the call basically. And here, if you observe guys, we are getting again an exception from that particular application. Too many requests. So the only thing that I need to do is I need to rerun my script again. So the API is having some issues. That's the reason we are encountering this. And moreover, as said that this is a public API. This is not the APIs that we were using as part of our projects. But that's fine. So this time it got executed successfully. If you observe, print scattered clouds. So the ultimate output over here, what it is printing means, see here, I am on an example 2, but using this call read method, whatever the feature file that we have created in an example 3, you are calling that and you are getting the values present in that and you are using here. This is the way how to call one feature file into another feature file using a Karate framework. Cool. That's all I have. See you again with the next example. Bye bye. Welcome back, guys. In the previous session, we have seen a different sets of examples and assertions. In continuation with that, we have a couple more assertions that we have here in this particular assertions tab. So we have used a match contains, and of course we have used a match equal to. If it is both are equal, you are going to use it as a equal. If it is not equal, I can just make it as a not equal. And additionally, we have these matchings also. If you remember, guys, we discussed about a hash string. I have explained about a half string. So the thing is, once after we get a JSON body, we are going to compare whether that JSON data type is a string or not, whether it is a number or not, whether it is a boolean, whether it is an object, array, not present, present, null, not null. These kinds of assertions also we can use it depending on our requirement. Okay, depending on your requirement, you can use either of all these assertions, followed by the other assertions that we have here are contains all, contains any, all these kinds of assertions also we can use it. So it depends on our customized, again, the project requirement itself, what are all the assertions we are going to use. See here, we have already seen that this is a match and match response, right? So additionally, what I'm doing means here match not equal to number. So we are just verifying whether it is a not equal to a number or not. So this time what we are doing means from the response of a particular zeroth array of a weather description, the data type of that description is not a number. That's what we are verifying. So this is having a unique tag name. Copy the unique tag name and update the tag name in a runner class and just run your test script. So whenever you are running, of course it is not a number, it's a string basically. The assertion will pass and the script will execute successfully with a result as a success itself. Fine. Like this, any of these assertions, like I can say, not number, is a boolean, is an array, is an object, is a string, or is a not null, is a null, all these kinds of an assertions, we can use it on that particular response body. Okay, so here this time what are we doing means we are not verifying the text from that response. We are trying to verify the data type for that particular response. Okay, we are trying to verify the data type for that particular response. Okay, fine. We can implement the furthermore scenarios also. You can give it a try with all these examples and just try this scenario. Okay, cool. Another small point that we need to add in continuation with this particular one is some kind of a schema validations also possible using this particular karate framework. So what exactly the schema validations means? Assume that this is what the structure that we are getting from a response, and from that particular response, this count always should be a number. This should be a number, something like that. The country ID should be a number, all these things. And here we have a scene hash string is a string. Basically, what exactly the two hash followed by a string. Whenever you have a two hashes means it's an optional value. It's not a mandatory chunk basically. It's an optional kind of an assertion. If it is there, that's fine. If not, just ignore it. That's kind of an optional assertion is out over here. And now, what kind of a schema validation that I want to do out over here is in this feature, let me comment these lines of a code. And this is what my post example is. Copy this runner and just update that scenario here. Let me try to run my script once. See here, when I ran my test script, what is the outcome it's going to print? So it will interact with that API. Of course, it's having some issues in interacting. Try running the script one more time. Run as an another JUnit test. So the reason precisely here is this application API is having some issues. That's the reason always we are not getting any response. Sometimes, you will be getting too many requests. So that's the reason we need to hit it for a couple of times. The other time you will be getting a proper response. So let me try to run this script one more time. Okay, so I just want to see the outcome from that, hoping this time it should get an outcome. Okay, too many attempts from this. Okay, so this API is not working. So what I'm doing means create a new scenario. Okay, get example 4. Okay, get example 4. This is my get request, and the example that I want to define out over here is, okay, let me define my example here. Okay, this shouldn't be a syntax issue. Let me copy the outline and let me paste the outline here. And 1 second, let this screen got loaded. This is the formatter. Okay, this is a dummy example. Okay, on this screen, I'm just going for this get employees. Okay, and trying to replace this API. Let us see what is the response I'm getting from this API. Whether still I'm getting the too many attempts or I'm getting at least a success response in this case or not. I just want to do. Earlier it's a post request. Now I converted into a get request now. And I guess this time also I'm getting a too many requests itself. This API itself is having certain issues. See, what I'm trying to do here is a kind of a schema validation. So what exactly the schema validation means? This is the API response we are getting. Right. See, this is the API response that you are getting from that API. See, at here, if you observe, this data is an array of values. So this data, you have a multiple sets of values, not one or two values you have in this array. You have a multiple sets of values. All these values I want to verify as part of a schema validations. Okay, let me copy this particular entry for this response. Let's go back here. In the meantime, we'll see how exactly we can write down these schema validations and match. Okay, I just want to go for a match. Response dot articles. Okay, I just want to go with response dot articles. I want to verify. And here I just want to add three times here and again three times. Okay, and let me place my content here. response dot. See here, in this response, what are we trying to verify here? We are trying to verify data basically, right? We are trying to verify the data. So let me, this is not an articles basically, this is a data. So from the response match this one, and this is a string. So I can go with the hash string. So it means the ID value should be of a string type, and this name, employee name, should be of a string type. Almost everything is of a string type itself, and this one is of a string type, this one is of a string type, and this is an optional value, hence I am giving a two hashes here. That's it. Hence, I am giving it two hashes here. Let me try to hit the response of this particular API and see whether we are getting response at this time or not. If we are getting a response, that's fine. We can validate that whole information. If still we are getting that exception, we need to wait for some time, and then we can validate that. See here, too many requests you are getting. So, but this is the ultimate way how exactly you can validate it. And moreover, if you observe the response, basically it's an array. It means array means it has a multiple sets of values inside that, not a one or a two values. It has a multiple sets of values. So what are we going to do? Match each. Whenever there are a multiple values are there, we are going to use an each on that. So it means on each and every set of values present in the response, go with this kind of a schema validations you just need to give. Okay, so this API is having some issues, guys. If you have some other APIs, you can give it a try, and then this will definitely work. Okay, try it after some time. The schema validation will definitely work. Okay, cool, done the deal. See you again in the next session. Thank you. Bye bye. Welcome back, guys. So the reason why I'm just recording the same session on a schema validations is, right after the session, I have run it again, and I got a response from that particular API. And of course, it is displaying as a failure. What I have done is, whatever the API response I got it, I just placed it here in the JSON format. I noticed that ID is a number, employee name is a string, employee salary is a number, age is a number, and profile image is a null. Whereas if you see this error log, why it got a failed assertion failed. If you see the reason behind the failure, whenever I scroll down towards the right, stating that the ID value is a number, you are trying to compare it with a string. That's what it got a fail. So it is a number, and you are trying to compare that particular one with a string. That's got, it's got a fail. So that's the reason I'm changing this one to number, ID to a number. And moreover, the salary also I noted it as a number, and even the age is also I observed as a number. From this schema, ID as a number, and moreover salary as a number, and age is also a number. Only name is a string and profile image is a string. So name is a string and profile image is an optional string. Okay, let me try to run my script this time. As I told you that we are using a match each. So it means how many values are there in that particular response, match it with all those values. Of course, it got executed earlier successfully, but that's fine. This is the response from where we have analyzed and we have corrected the test script. Okay, let me try to run one more time and see whether I'm getting a success message or not. Usually this time, as we have updated the schema validations properly, if it executed if it connected with that API, definitely the outcome should be a success outcome itself. See, I didn't get any failures, success, and here the assertions are also passed. Basically, it evaluated and everything is passed. That's it. So this is the simple way how exactly you can use a schema validations and validate entire response structure using this karate framework. It's so simple basically. So match each response dot data. Why I'm using this data? If you observe, in the data itself, I have a multiple sets of values. Whatever the values you have, everything is inside the data itself. Okay, let me show you the console once so that you can observe why I'm giving it as a data itself. See, in the response, see if you observe, this is what my response body is, and the response is starting with a data. That's the reason I gave it as a data out over there in my schema validations, response dot data. From the response, pick the data JSON object, and in which perform this assertion on each and every array value. Of course, it got executed successfully and returned the assertion as a success. Cool. That's it. This is all about a schema validations, guys. See you in the next session.